Hello, and welcome to the Student Experience podcast, where we'll be chatting to members of the University of Suffolk community, giving them the opportunity to share their experience with us. I'm Sam, and I'm a member of the Student Experience team, and in today's episode, we're joined by Obinna Ejiogu, who is a PhD student, and Sarah Richards, who is the head of the Suffolk Doctoral College. We discussed his PhD project, the advantages of completing a mock viva, and his plans after graduation. So, Obina and Sarah, thanks for joining us today. Would you like to firstly introduce yourselves?
I'm Sarah Richards, and I'm head of the Suffolk Doctoral College. And I have worked here for about 20 years as a lecturer, senior lecturer, associate professor, and formerly I was in social science and humanities, where I was the associate dean for research.
Wow, so you've done it all, really.
got the t-shirts for
we
all
need
of
to come
those
to
roles.
you for all
Yes.
information.
Yeah.
Could you introduce yourself?
Okay, hi, my name is Obinna Ejiogu. Just finished my PhD about a month or two ago. I also teach at the Leadership and Management Academy as a lecturer in Human Resource Management.
Excellent. So, could you provide us with some more information on the mock viva and why it has helped the viva part of your PhD?
Okay. To be honest, the first time I was told about the mock viva, there was this anxiety, there was this uncertainty. I kind of asked, why should I do a mock viva? I've gone through a lot of preparations with my supervisors, and I had thought that should be enough. So was this another examination? What was it about? So that anxiety was there. However, in my journey as a researcher during the PhD, we'll be taught how to be critical, how to analyze every situation. So I had gone back, thought about the mock viva, read about it, asked a few questions, and at the end of the day, I came up to the conclusion that I think it's something I should go in for. Having gone through that, with hindsight, I mean, I could tell anyone that is about to go into it that it's something. I could liken it to like you go to the hospital and you are being told that you need to take an injection or you need to take some medicines, and you're probably the type that doesn't like taking injections of medicines. You freak out and all that. But at the end of the day, the medicines or the injections will obviously help you get better. So that's how I saw the mock viva. In terms of confidence, it boosts your confidence. Having gone through it, you're able to go into the main viva knowing that I've gone through something similar. It's like a simulation process. Everything that happens in the main viva itself should happen in the mock viva. So it's more like a simulation process. So in terms of confidence, you're able to get that, bring up your confidence level going into the main viva. You're able to get constructive feedback. And I use the word constructive because not all feedbacks are good. Yeah, but when you're able to get a constructive feedback, it helps you prepare better with a few days or few weeks or few months you have before the main viva itself. It helps you know what your weaknesses are, because you are being asked questions that probably you and your supervisors have not looked at before. So you're able to realize, okay, in this particular area, I need to work on it more. To be honest, I went through a couple of practice sessions with my supervisors. And I mean, I've been on this journey for 3.5 years with them, so they know me, I know them. Yeah. But having someone else doing the mock viva brings a different angle, a different perspective to it. And they're able to see things that probably you and your supervisors may not have seen. And they're able to ask you those questions. And even if there are things that you already know, you come out of that mock viva knowing that, okay, this is the way I would answer those questions if I'm being asked in the main viva itself. And I'll give you an example. During the mock viva, I was asked, why did I use participant 1, participant 2, participant 3, participant 4 for my my participants, the people I collect the data from. Why didn't I use pseudonyms? Why didn't I use Jerry? Why didn't I use Mike? Why didn't I use different names and all that? And even though I was able to answer that question, but having gone through that, something else came up that in the main viva, if I'm being asked that, I could come up with an answer such as, you need to look at the context in which your research is being done. You need to look at the culture where your research is being done. The context of my research was based in Africa, was based in Nigeria. People would rather you not call them John, James. Yeah. They rather, if you want to give them pseudonyms, give them traditional names, that they would understand. However, I'm doing my research in the UK, where if I had used pseudonyms of people from my country, such as Obina, such as Ifeanyi, they wouldn't understand, because these are two different cultures. So it's better you just use something that is more unique or general, or whatever it is that everybody understands. And that was how I was, to be honest, I was asked that question in the main viva, and that was how I was able to answer that question. So you learn a lot from it. And as I said, it's just like going into a hospital and you have been diagnosed and you're told, I need to give you so injection, I need to give you these drugs to make you get better. And even though you're not a drug person, you're not an injection person, you need those things to make you get better. So I would encourage anyone that is preparing for the viva to go through a mock viva. It's not an examination. It's just, as I said, it's a simulation process for you to go in there and then present what you've done and then get some constructive feedback at the end of the day, and you feel better when you come out of it. And lastly, I was going to suggest this, is whoever is going to do the mock viva, let it be somebody that is pretty critical. I'd rather have someone that is very critical in my mock viva than have someone that is not critical and I go into the main viva and I'm being bashed left, right, and center. So let me get that from the mock viva, and then when I get into the viva, I know what I'm expecting. I'm more confident and all that. So that would be my recommendation, if I should use that word.
Definitely. I really like the analogy you're saying about like the doctors, and that obviously not everybody thinks, oh no, I don't need to do that, I don't need this. But clearly you it's helped you enormously, and you recommended it. And I think any chance to practice anything must be a good thing.
Exactly.
Like you said, and it helps prep you for the really official business and things like that. I think mocks of anything are really important. Like I say, it's a simulation, and it's a really great idea.
So I was wondering actually if when you did your mock, there was anything that when you went into the main viva, you thought, oh, I'm glad I did the mock because this came up that I wouldn't have been prepared for otherwise.
Yeah. The anxiety wasn't there as much. I mean, if you're going to any examination, no matter how much you prepare, there is some level of anxiety. But then having gone through that mock viva, the anxiety level in me had dropped drastically. I was able to get that confidence. And there are certain ways you answer some questions. And even when you are being asked questions and they keep asking and asking, how you're able to defend is your thesis in the first place. You wrote it, you know about it, so you are the professor, if I should use that word, as far as that thesis is concerned. So you are selling what you have. So how confident you're able to sell it matters a lot, and you're able to get that having gone through the mock viva. And as I said, I've had a couple of practice sessions with my supervisors, but here you are facing someone. In my case, I had 2 external examiners. I didn't have an internal, one external. I had 2 externals because I was a staff of the university. So these were 2 professors. And when they were chosen, the anxiety was there. But I went through a mock viva where the examiner in the mock viva was pretty critical, and having gone through that, my confidence level really went high, and my anxiety level went low. So it's a good thing, to be honest. I would strongly recommend it to my fellow PhD
I think
students.
Obinna's making a really good point there, because a thesis that you go in and defend, how well you defend it, really can be the tipping point as to how successful, what outcome you come out with. And so your capacity to not only know your thesis's strengths, but also its limitations, and to recognize those limitations and be able to discuss them, and to acknowledge them, but also to sort of discuss them and explain why you made the decisions that you made at each stage of that research process, is a really important thing to be able to do. And so having additional a mock viva with additional supervisors to oversee it and take the role of an examiner is an opportunity for you to rehearse those discussions. And as useful as supervisors running little mini vivas with you is, and I do that with mine, it cannot be the same, because you, as supervisors, you live the research along with your students, so you become as embedded in it almost as your students are. And so the capacity to step back and look at it in a more objective way or in a more neutral way isn't really there. So that mock viva enables our students to rehearse those discussions, to identify some of the strengths they may not have seen, but also some of the limitations, and how will they respond when those questions come up, if those questions come up. And so I think it's a really important support structure that we have in place. What we're trying to do is develop a range of different mock vivas. One is just when you've submitted the thesis and you have a mock viva like you did, Obinna, with the thesis. Another is to have that mock viva earlier, where you get the opportunity to have written feedback that you can amend on your thesis before you submit it.
I was going to ask you that, can you, between the mock and
absolutely.
the official? Yeah,
absolutely. So we're trying to, or we're developing a range of different viva support structures for students. Some want the full thing. They want feedback on the written thesis. Some just want the rehearsal for the actual verbal exam, the viva itself. And so we're trying to sort of accommodate different students' needs around the thing. So I recently did a full viva where the candidate actually had a lot of written feedback. She hadn't submitted her thesis yet. She was incredibly nervous about being examined. And so we had the other examiner and I, we put her through her paces, but it's not done aggressively. No. It's done with, can you talk to us about this? Why did you make that decision? And how is it, how is that theory used, do you think? And she had significant changes at the end of her that mock viva that she was able to make on her thesis to improve it and enhance it. We weren't telling her that she had to make those changes. No. We gave her what our feedback would have been had this been a genuine viva. And she took that and was told to take that to her supervisors and for them to discuss what we were recommending. And she implemented those recommendations and had a very successful viva and was very grateful for the process. And she was also able to hear, as Obinna was talking about, that she managed really well. She was very calm in the viva, and she managed to defend her decisions really well. So she came out of that process not only with a list of suggestions from two objective people about how the thesis itself might be enhanced, but also that knowledge that actually she could answer questions from two people she didn't know very well about her thesis, and she, like Obinna, went into her actual viva with more confidence. And that's really what we're trying to do in providing the opportunity for mock vivas, is to give our students the best opportunity to prepare for what is inevitably a nerve-wracking experience. I remember mine as and I'm not, I had to wait outside a room because I arrived early and I got told off for arriving early. So I had to wait outside while the examiners and the chair were just sort of, pouring over my work. And I've got no idea how I made my legs walk into that room because I really didn't want to. And it was a grilling, and it was, but I'd been prepared for it by my supervisors and by a mock viva process. So I'm very keen that we have that opportunity and that students can take advantage of it if they want. And not all of them do, I recognise that, but if they want, it is really useful. It's also really useful experience for our academics as well. We put experienced people in those roles so that they can be as beneficial to the students going through it as possible.
Oh, that's fantastic. It sounds like such a great thing. Like, I wish it was mandatory, really, because it sounds like it's so helpful and it does so much for the student as well. So
yeah, I wouldn't want it to
you
be
wouldn't
mandatory.
want it, that's fair enough.
A, because there are no consequences for not being mandatory. So, but B, this is, our PhD students, this is their research. Yeah, and they're researchers. We regard them as researchers, and they need to make decisions, autonomous decisions about what their research looks like, how it's shaped, what theories they use. And yes, they're supported by supervisors, but it is very much their support. So by the time we actually present a student as ready for their viva, it's very much their research, and they have to make those kinds of decisions for themselves. And that's part of what we're actually helping them achieve is the capacity to own their research, but also make decisions about the research. And so it's appropriate that students make decisions about their theories and make decisions. And I had a theory in my thesis that my supervisor didn't like, and sure enough, the examiners didn't like it very much either. So I had to defend it, and but I'd made that decision to use that theory, and so it was down to me to actually defend its application, and that's what we're aiming towards of producing that kind of autonomous journey around that. Would you say you were autonomous at the end of your process or your viva by the time you were in there?
Not really. Not really. If I may, because I'm passionate about it. I've having gone through the mock, gone through the main viva, I've been speaking to a lot of my colleagues that are coming up the park and all that. If I could use one more example, there's this thing that practice makes perfect. Yeah, so
Definitely.
It's an avenue to practice, and no amount of practice is too much. I love football. There's this debate out there, who's the greatest footballer right now? Is it Ronaldo or is it Messi? Yeah. And personally, I say it's Ronaldo. Why do I say it's Ronaldo? Because he keeps practicing and practicing and practicing and practicing and practicing. Where he has gotten to right now is as a result of what he has put into practice and all that. And so I liken it to the PhD journey as well. Whatever practice, whatever you need to do, accept it in good faith, go with it. It only makes you better. It only makes you perfect. So if mock viva is an avenue to practice for your main viva, take the opportunity. No one's going to kill you for it. Even if you come out, to be honest, when I came out of the mock viva, I was a bit battered, to be honest, but I took all the feedbacks, all the constructive feedback, went back, rejigged my thesis all over again before I finally submitted. Had a meeting with my supervisors, and they said, yeah, I think this was good. Do this, let's do this. It's not every feedback you take into consideration. There are some you feel, no, I can go in there and defend what I've done. But there are some that you say, okay, I think this is good for my thesis. And I can also say, well, not authoritatively, but the difference between a minor correction and a major correction could also be, did you go through a mock viva? if you went through a mock viva and you took it in good faith, you took all the feedbacks, you were able to work on your thesis, and you went into the main viva itself, it could just be that saved you from having a major or a fail, maybe, so, and I think it because at the end of the day, I had minor corrections, just 4 minor corrections, and if it hadn't been for my mock viva, probably I would have had more corrections. Yeah. So to be honest, I know Prof said it's not mandatory. If I had my way, I would make it mandatory.
But it's like you said, if it just causes those differences that seem quite small at the time, but actually they have a huge impact on going into the viva as well.
Yeah,
I think as well that the academics that do your mock viva, they are rigorous, but they're on your side.
Yeah,
when you're in that viva. They're not, the examiners are not on your side. They're not against you, obviously, but they're examining you, and they have to do that appropriately and rigorously. And so the mock viva, I think some haven't done it, said, "Oh, I'd be too nervous to do it. I want to focus on the main thing," and that's fair enough. Except that those examiners that are doing a mock viva are team us, they're team UOS, and so they're there with the students' best interests at the heart of what they're doing, which is not the same in a viva necessarily. They're there to examine your thesis and listen to you defend it. And as Obina was saying, that practice that we do try and establish opportunities for our PhD students to talk about their research in multiple arenas, whether it's just in informal research seminars, or it's in the colloquium, or it's at conferences, because the more you talk about your research, the more you get used to talking about it, the better you are at at responding to challenging questions, or thinking through what people have said and thinking, oh yeah, actually I hadn't thought of that. And so the more opportunity you have to talk about your research, the better you get at talking about your research. And the viva is the biggest arena where you talk about your research, because it is an oral examination. So I would never advise any of my PhD students to not go through a viva. In fact, I had one just recently. She didn't go through a written pre-submission one. She went post-submission, and she still found it so beneficial, because she said, I can manage the questions, because these two academics, she didn't know them at all. They were from different schools. They asked her rigorous questions about her findings and her methodology, and she practiced talking about it to examiners, academic examiners who examine other actually are examiners. And she's much more confident about her viva now that's coming up next month than she was beforehand. So it's that opportunity to rehearse and to practice discussions about something that, as Obinna said, you're the expert in. They are the experts of their research, but answering questions about it, particularly if they haven't engaged in conference presentations or colloquium presentations, and not all of our students do that. And so I think it's even more imperative then that they have the opportunity to talk about it in a safe environment where they will get constructive feedback about how they did and how they might improve.
So you're saying about your students coming up for their viva in the next month, did you say? Sorry?
We've got students coming up for vivas all the time now.
So you're saying, is there much of a gap between having a mock viva and going for the real thing?
There can be. With Brighton, the vivas come up pretty quick. UEA, it takes after thesis submission, it can take quite a few months for a viva date to be established, but with Brighton regulations, it's a lot quicker. So we would suggest that sort of 6 months before, if you want a written feedback, 6 months before would be a good time to try and put a mock viva in place. That's doesn't always work. Students aren't necessarily always ready for that, and so it might be a little shorter than that, and then we would need to find academics who've got the time to read it through, to offer that kind of feedback. So we're establishing some timeframes around a full mock viva with pre-submission with written feedback around how suggestions for amendments. Otherwise, just as a case with my student, where she was writing up to the absolute deadline, and so she went for a mock viva post submission, and so the feedback there was about her opportunities to hone in on her defences of her theoretical framework, her methodology, her findings, and to rehearse and to practice answering those kinds of questions. Both are really useful, and both, I think, should be available to our students.
Something I was wondering actually is when you're leading up to your mock viva, in terms of how much practice you do and how much preparation you do you have ideas in mind of what the challenging questions they're going to ask you, and then do you have almost a script in your head when you do the presentation in terms of how that works? So how does it work for you?
There are some materials that will tell you. In fact, there's a couple of research that have been done on viva questions, which I had printed, downloaded, and looked at, studied, and all that. Those are the generic questions, and I went through them with my supervisors. On each chapter, on introduction, on your literature review, your methodology, there are different questions. Some could be the same question but asked in a different way. So you need to know, because sometimes they're asking you, why is this white? But they ask it in a different way. Right. So having those questions and going through those practice would enable you to know what they are asking for. So I was able to do all those, and I have 3 sessions with my supervisors. Yeah, and the first one, I had scripts. Just as I had scripts and all that, memorized what I could memorize and all that, and went into it. But I think the last one I had with her, I just went in there and everything was in there in my head, because this is my thesis. I've prepared enough. And then when I also went into my mock viva, even though I had a copy of my thesis and I was asked to go, because they might refer to a particular page or a particular section where I need to make reference to, but everything was there. And now that happens if you've gone through this practice. That happens if, as I said, you keep practicing and practicing, be it with your supervisors, be it through the mock viva and all that.
Oh, fantastic. Like I said, having it there is, I've got to refer to page like 14, that kind of thing. So, and like Sarah's pointed out, it's your research. You probably know it better than anybody. Well, you should know better than anybody. But when you're going into like a mock exam situation, as it were, I know when I've been in exams before, your mind's just and obviously you just don't know what's coming. So to do the mock sounds like a great way of really preparing you for the real thing. So definitely. Sarah, is there anything else you'd like to say about the viva, either the mock or the real deal? So
I think the viva, we have a system at university which I am very passionate about, which is that we always have a chair in there. So the chair is there, and they're trained. We run training for viva chairs, so they know the regulations. So they ensure that examiners behave themselves in the best possible sense, because you don't have to search too hard on the internet for horror stories about vivas, and everybody has a horror story about viva, and I know as a PhD student many years ago I was fixated on the horror stories of, oh my word. But the chair is in there to ensure regulations are followed and to ensure that questions are appropriately asked and responded to, and that breaks are offered if a break is needed for the candidate. So I remember asking my supervisor, who was what I refer to as a lofty professor all those years ago, what was your viva like? And she said, well, I loved it. And I thought, well, you would. Obviously, all the answers to give me, that's the least helpful of any. I loved it, she said.
Wonderful.
So, but actually at the end of it, her justification for loving it was that she said, at no other point will you have academics as interested in your work and for you to speak in such detail at such length about your research. And it will never come again. So enjoy it. And actually, my viva was 3.5 hours long, which sounds, and it was terribly long. And I was offered a break 2.5 hours in and said, no, because if you let me go, I'm not coming back. So I stuck with it. It was very successful, and viva. But the chair was there, and she made sure everything was sort of all the regulations were followed and everything was managed appropriately. And my supervisor, as she was right about so many things, was absolutely right. Never again has anybody expressed such interest in my research that I lived and breathed, and so was desperate to be able to share it and talk about it. And yes, there were some hard questions, and but I was prepared for those. And ultimately, looking back on it, it was a very memorable experience, and was also a very enjoyable experience because two people, both of whom were referenced in my thesis, which helps, I would say, as an examiner. It shouldn't, but it does. So, I would suggest that candidates and supervisors pay close attention to the examiners that they select and how you have used their research in your thesis. If you've criticized their research all the way through, maybe not select them as an examiner of your thesis, but so think about that, but try and enjoy the process, because as you've said to Obinna, he is the expert in his research, and so having those in-depth conversations about the research is something that doesn't come around very often. So try and enjoy it. And I would also say, defend your decisions. Don't be defensive. So do not take the questions or their interrogation questions as personally. This is about the research. So defend your research decisions. You do not need to be, nor is it appropriate to be defensive. And from the viva onwards, when you're publishing your research or you're presenting it in further conferences, you will be defending it. You will be answering questions from other academics who have knowledge and want to know. And so enjoy the process as much as possible. And I know students listening to this are going to go, enjoy your viva. Yeah, right. I know. But ultimately, looking back, did you enjoy yours, Obinna? Or is it still too close to say?
Well, it was both, I would say. I went in there optimistic, and at the end of the day, the result was good. But those 2 hours that you are in there, not the best of the 2 hours. Yeah, but I mean, the fact that it's an opportunity to talk about your thesis. You might probably not get that opportunity again. Right. That is there. Yeah, but you are in the heat of the moment, and just that I like using a lot of examples. Like going into a boxing match or a wrestling match, while you're in the ring there is not easy. Well, even if you get the belt or you win at the end of the day, but while you were in there, it wasn't easy at all. No. Yeah. So.
But you know what? If PhDs were easy, everybody would have one.
Exactly. True.
I mean, that's been really interesting to learn about the mock viva, why it's important, and the success you've had as a result of it. So it's really great to learn a bit more about your PhD journey, the success that you've had. So if you sort of look at it from when you started to how you are now, what was your journey like?
Pretty interesting. First, I would advise anyone starting a PhD to have an open mind. whatever your mindset or whatever baggage or whatever you're coming in, just drop it at the door. Have an open mind. Be ready to embrace whatever comes your way. Having that mindset will take you far. If you come in with some preconceived mindsets and all that, it's going to get in the way. So I came into this journey. I've been in the industry. I've worked in the banking industry for 21 years. So in terms of industry experience, I had it there. However, I knew this was a new journey I wanted to embark on, and I had to be open-minded, leave the industry, whatever out there. I'm coming in, and it's a different journey. I started during when COVID was almost over, January 2021. So there were, I remember coming in here, there was no one. I took a while before I met you and all that. I didn't see my supervisors physically till a year after.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So with all those, mentally, emotionally, it would have a little bit of toll on you.
Cool.
And that's why I said, have an open mind. Whatever you meet during the journey, be ready to take on it and move on.
That's great.
I was, and which is what I would, I don't know how that will happen, but I'm a person of faith. I pray over a lot of things, and I pray to have the best of supervisors I could have, and I think I had that. I don't think I would have gotten this far if not for the help, the guidance, the support that they gave me. Not everybody will tell you their supervisors are great, but as I said, I'm a person of faith and I pray over it, and I think I got the best of the first supervisor I had. 2 months, 3 months supervision, I was like, what's this guy talking about? I didn't quite understand where he was going, where he was coming from. And then I had a change of supervisors. That first supervisor was my mock examiner.
Oh, God.
Yeah. But then I said, if you recall, I said initially, let someone that is critical examine you.
Yeah.
It helps you at the end of the day.
Yeah, definitely.
If you have someone that is your friend or your examiner,
it makes it too easy.
Yeah, it makes it too easy. Yeah. So this person is he's very philosophical. I mean, you know who I'm talking about, very philosophical. And I'm just coming into this journey. I don't know what this guy is talking about, but my main survivor was the new ones understood where I was coming from, understood my context, understood I was an international student, understood that they needed to approach this in a different way, and they made me feel relatively at home without losing the main thing. Yeah, it's very key. Yeah, so 3-4 months I settled in and I started, and with their guidance and advice and support and all that, I went to, which a lot of people might also not want to do. When you start, ensure you are part of the internal conferences that hold in the university. If you can, go for external conferences. They are very good. The experience doesn't have to be, as I said, when you're in a boxing match, when you're in the ring, it's not good. But when you come out of it, you thank God that you went into it. So, but those conferences were able, I remember the first one we had in the business school. I'm a very competitive person. I love winning. I love winning.
Fair enough. Who doesn't?
And they tell you up to now, my supervisors will tell you that you're very competitive. When I go into those conferences and I don't win anything, I feel bad about it.
Oh.
Yeah, I really feel bad about it. But it helps me prepare for the next one.
Yeah,
and I can confidently say 2 external conferences that I've gone for, I've won awards. These are international conferences.
Wow.
The one in Dublin, I won the best international paper award that was presented.
Fantastic.
And then in the last one was in June. It was a poster presentation. My poster was adjudged the best poster in that conference. And then the internal ones, yes, but it's not the prize or anything, but it prepares you. There are visiting academics that come in for those conferences. They don't know you from anywhere. All they're interested is in your research. They ask you questions that. So this has been my job, but I had an open mind and I took it. I absorbed it, or because you are here for 3, 4, 5 years, and you need to achieve what you want to achieve. As an international student, I need to achieve what I came here for. I can't afford to, after 1 or 2 years, drop off. No, I need to achieve. I mean, there was a motivation, which is another thing. That motivation needs to be there. That hunger needs to be there. If that hunger is not there, that motivation is not there, you'll probably drop off. When you get some of your feedbacks from your supervisors, I remember sometimes my supervisors would tell me, Obina, you're still thinking like an MBA student. And that would hit me hard. Why is she saying I'm thinking like an MBA student? I'm a PhD student. But I knew where they were coming from. Some might say some harsh words. Some might say this is rubbish. Well, you spend 2 months, 3 months writing a 4, 5 or 2, 3, 4, 5,000 words, and then you churn it in and they read it for 15 minutes and they tell you this is rubbish.
I can say as a supervisor it's a lot longer than 15 minutes. and reviewing drafts is a really important part of any academic's life, but also that sort of iterative process of having feedback and responding to it, and having feedback and responding to it. So it can be painful. I remember as a student getting just one piece of feedback on a draft of early draft of mine, and she'd just written, "This is atrocious, rewrite." And and I read it and I thought, you know what, she's absolutely right. She's absolutely right. So but overwhelmingly positive in other ways. But feedback and that relationship with your supervisor is key.
Very key.
Absolutely key. And I think what students don't always recognize when they come in is they are part of that relationship. They're not passive recipients of that relationship. They build that relationship with their supervisors, which is why it's so important early on to have those discussions with supervisors about how you want to receive feedback, what feedback is useful to you. Do you want all of your supervision team to sort of all respond to the same draft, or do you want one who's particularly strong on a theory to respond to that? So this is a dialogue and a negotiation and a relationship that you build with supervisors, and I think it can sometimes take a while to recognize that, because it's not like a taught master's, or it's not like an undergrad where you've got lecturers that tell you how it is and you just comply. It isn't like that at all. And that step into that different relationship and the ownership of that research can take some time. And your relationship with your supervisors is key to that success. But students shape that relationship. They are not just passive recipients of it. And I think that can sometimes take a little while to learn. I remember the first time I said no to my supervisor. She wanted me to do a particular thing, and I said, no, I don't want to do that. And she went, fine. And I thought, oh my word, oh my word. And that's because, and that's absolutely because this is my research, and they're there to guide and to help, but it's my research. And that ongoing negotiation with your supervisors about what you need as a student, you have got to be the driver of that. You've got to go into those supervisions with knowing, okay, this is what I want to talk about. This is what I want feedback on. These are the questions that I have. You have to be the driver. You cannot be the passenger in that relationship. And as you might be in other places where you sit and receive knowledge from it isn't like that at all. And that can take some developmental time to acknowledge that. But those that do get more out of that. You know, supervisors are their wealth of knowledge. There's a reason they're on your supervision team. You get to tap their knowledge.
Exactly.
They don't just get to put it out on the table for you. You get to tap it, and you get to apply it and use it in a way that supports your progress for your research.
If I may, one of the things the university have done is to provide a lot of workshops online. A lot of us don't like attending some of those workshops, but those workshops are good. I remember, as I said, I was open-minded and motivated. So I didn't see it as anything. I had, if you looked at my APR forms and all that, where there's a section where it says what developmental courses or workshops have you gone through and all that, and I have loads of them. There's this particular one that is about how to manage your supervisors. a lot of people wouldn't want to go for that workshop, but I went to that workshop and it helped me. It helped me because you need to know how to. They are not there to manage you. You are there to manage them. As you said, you are the driver. Yeah, so you should know how to drive them. And they are not going to drive you. I mean, they are there to suggest to you, tell you, it's left to you to take it or leave it. So that particular workshop was very, very instrumental to where I am right now. And there are a couple of them, and I attended all those workshops, both in Suffolk and the one that Brighton also offered. Though I attended a few in Brighton, but majority of the ones I attended were from Suffolk here. So there are a lot of things that are there to support every PhD student. The workshops are there. The conferences, internal, external, are there. They are funded if you apply in time, and if you keep pushing Sarah, approve. Sarah would approve for you. And then network, talk to your fellow PhD students as well. No one can do it alone. Thank you for the PhD room. It's an avenue where we all meet and we talk about our research, talk about our
supervisors,
talk about our supervisors.
Everyone needs that safe space. So.
My first 2.5 years, I was practically living there, the PhD room. Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, weekends. My house then was just 30 seconds walk. So weekends I'll come in here, and it was a safe place to, and everything. I mean, the whole package that both the Suffolk Business School and the university provides, I would encourage anyone to embark on them, because everything that is there is meant to help you at the end of the day. And another opportunity that had helped me was given the opportunity to teach as a part-time lecturer. I mean, if my intention, my goal is to continue in the academics. So starting at an early point in my PhD career to start teaching was good for me. You're able, and then apart from other things that you gain from it, you have students that you are teaching. So it's like the students are you at the end of the day, and then I'm like the examiner.
And I'm lots of role changes.
Role changes exactly. So you tend to benefit, tend to gain a lot from there. It's been an interesting journey, really. But as I said, I had an open mind. I was ready to take in everything that was thrown at me or that I had to go through, and I look at it from the positive side. Not everything has been rosy or good at the end of the day, but go through it. As I said, critique it, analyze it, and move on.
I think you touched upon a really important area around that social aspect of mixing with other PhD students, because I think because it's it's not like a taught degree where you're in a cohort and you get to drink coffee with people who are in the same module or doing the same degree or whatever. So you have to reach out. You have to actually reach out to other students or have them reach out to you. And it can be a very isolating experience where you think you're the only one that's struggling with that particular feature, or you're the only one that doesn't understand the methodology, or you're the only one that's struggling with what a lit review is and how to achieve one, or you're the only one who has a supervisor that's talking in a different language to you and you're too scared to actually say, I don't understand this. And actually, if you reach out to other PhD students, you discover it's a universal experience, that there are no emotions or situations that you find yourself in as a PhD student that other PhD students haven't come across or found themselves. And so talking to other PhD students, even if it is a festival of, do you know what my supervisor's done this time? Even if it is that sort of festival, it's really beneficial and really important and really cathartic to actually have that for somebody else to say, oh, I've got a bigger horror story than that. I guess what mine did, and that actually makes it much more manageable because you think, I'm not on my own. I'm not just experiencing this, and it's not just that I can't do a PhD. It's that this is a more of a universal experience of learning how to do it. And that, as soon as you're a PhD student, people outside imagine that you're a member of Mensa and you're the smartest person on the block or whatever, and actually inside you're thinking, I don't know if I can do this. I don't feel like I'm that smart yet. And because it's developmental, as Obinna has been talking about, it's a developmental process, and so you're going to have anxieties, and reaching out to other students on a similar path who may be a little further ahead or maybe a little further behind you, and you can act as a support. You can also act as someone just to sort of reassure them, say, oh yeah, I felt that, or yeah, I did that, or I went on that particular course and that really helped, or this is how I managed that situation. And so trying to create opportunities, whether it's a PhD room where people can just sit and talk in confidence and chat and study together, or whether it's sort of social events that we try and put on to bring PhD students together, or it's the informal seminars that we run where you get to listen and you get asked questions about your research by other PhD students. We do try and have those available because it's so important, because that isolation that PhD students can feel is very real. It's very real and can only be addressed by social contact and other experiences of students.
It's like you said, having that community, even if it does feel like quite a small community at the time. Indeed. But I mean, even going to workshops and seminars, you're going to be meeting up with other people and they're saying, oh, how's your PhD going? Exactly, and then, oh, have you thought of this? Or, mine was, I remember that. And, it's just having that human connection and saying we all go through things like imposter syndrome. We all go through things like, what on earth am I doing? Or at the end of it, did I write that? That kind of thing. Sure. So having that, I mean, I did have a sneaky look in the PhD room and it is wonderful. And I was like, I wish I had something like this. But it is, but like I said, community is so important. And it is a huge part of your learning journey and things like that. And like you said, when you're so involved in your research, it can be difficult to remember, oh yeah, there's other people around me, and family and all sorts of things. But having those other people going, even though they're not doing the same research as you, they're still going through the same processes as you, they're still having the same, internal conversations. So like you said, getting them out there and saying, actually, yeah, no, I'm feeling like that too. And have you thought of that? Yeah, definitely.
So when it came to sort of applying for your PhD, was there anything in particular that drew you to this university? I mean, it sounds like the support provision that you've got here is amazing. So I'm guessing that was a factor. I would say, just before Obinna answers that, I would say, we are developing it. It's an ongoing process. We're, the university, we're new to PhD provision, so I've only been in post a couple of years, and I have a small team, and we are developing, and the institution is developing its PhD provision, and we're trying to do it. After this many years of teaching students, we're trying to do it student-centred. So we're student-facing, and we're trying to sort of be as supportive of our students as we can be as we develop this. So we're always open and keen to have student feedback on what we're doing and what we're providing, and we try and be available to listen. So we might
in the doctoral college, we might not always have the answer straight away, but we will always find the answer for students, and we will also support our students in navigating some of the other areas in the university. So my team are very, very student focused, and we're there to help our PhD students be successful and have them progress and find ways in which we can do that if there are any issues or problems that arise across their journey. They're with us for a long time, 3 years plus a write-up year full-time, 6 years plus a write-up year part-time. So some of my part-time students, one that's got her viva next month, I've known she's actually, as a result of some intercalations, I've been with her for about 8 years.
Wow.
And so, you know, life happens in 8 years.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we are very supportive of our students, because they are, you know, they've worked really hard, and we've seen them through thick and thin in terms of PhDs. So so I'll let Obinna talk about why the University of Suffolk.
I mean, I'll be truthful here. As I said before, my personal faith, I tend to pray over everything. I mean, if you want to do a PhD, it's a major career option or thing that is going to take your time. It will affect your family. It will affect, as an international student, it will affect your finances. So if you need to embark on it, you need to get it right. So I think I prayed over it. However, one of the things that attracted me here as an international student was the fact that the tuition was good compared to some other. I did my master's here at University of Lincoln, 2007. That's how many years now? So many years. So when I decided to do my PhD, I also went to University of Lincoln, but their fees were, I think, 3,000 more higher than what Suffolk was.
Goodness.
Yeah, and and then I looked at other things. I saw it's one of the newest universities in the UK, and if it is new, it means there are opportunities that will be available. I also looked at the fact that it's quite a small community, and I would prefer to go to a small community where you will be recognized, your voice will be heard, than going to those universities where your voice would drown.
Bigger institutions,
no one would, So those are things that I looked at. And then Suffolk, Ipswich, the beaches, the waterfront, and all that, those were also attractive to me. And my brother lives in the UK. He's a GP, and I asked him what he thought about Suffolk, about Ipswich and the university itself. And he got back to me, I think, a couple of weeks later, and his feedbacks were positive. So at that point in time, and then when I started the process, the international admissions office, the guys that were communicating with me at that time, they always come back to you. You didn't know wait 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month. And some was good. Some was when I sent in my proposal, anytime I emailed him, he would always respond on time. And that's the benefit of a small community and all that. So it didn't take me time to decide, okay, let me just, aside from the fees anyway, so.
It's the thing, isn't it? It's weighing up the practicalities, but also weighing up how comfortable am I going to feel in this setting? Can I have a life here outside of study and things like that? And like you said, I know like you quite rightly pointed out, we are a small institution, but at the end of the day, we're growing as well.
Exactly, yeah.
There's always room for different things to either improve, or like you said, having a smaller university means you get the smaller cohorts, you get the smaller communities, but sometimes they don't want huge kind of groups of people that you probably won't know half of by the end of the year. So.
True.
I think one of our rewarding features is that we have students come and do their PhD here who studied at undergrad or studied their masters, and that is really meaningful. That actually they're coming, they're returning because they had a good experience with us before. And also, I think what's key with a PhD is have a look at the academics around your field of interest. Because we do get interests, and sometimes even as get advances at receiving applications, but we actually haven't got the supervisors to have that specialism. And so I think it's really important when students are deciding, are looking around at institutions. Yes, take a look at the institution because that's pretty important, but also have a look at who the academics are and whether they could support your PhD effectively before you go down a sort of an application route. Have a look at the academics in that field, because that's hugely important to consider.
Definitely. I mean, when I look at some of the levels of expertise here, it's incredible.
It is.
And like things you didn't even know there was an expert in. You're like, wow, that's amazing. Like you said, it's so key to whoever your supervisor is, that person's hopefully the person you're going to stay with. And you're like, but like you said, if they're talking the completely different concepts, you're like, no, that's not where I want my research to go. That is not what's happening. But having someone who's an expert who can give you all that additional information and that additional push, as it were.
And so we put supervision teams together. So no one just has one supervisor. They have supervision teams of 2, maybe 3, and some might have methodological experience, some might have topical experience, another might have theoretical experience. And so there is always attention put around a supervision team, that what does this candidate actually need across a supervision team. And increasingly we're looking at interdisciplinary, which not just our institution, but putting supervisors teams together across schools, across research institutes, just for having that sort of interdisciplinary approach. So one of my PhD students, for example, is doing a technology based PhD, which you can write on a postage stamp what I know about that. But there's also a social science perspective to it, so there's qualitative research into it. So her supervision team is made up of both of those two different disciplines. We do not often speak the same language, and so much of the discussions in supervision is how to shape a thesis that addresses both of those requirements. And I learn as much as I teach in those environments. And I think the other supervisor would say exactly the same. So we have, and our student gets the opportunity to really recognize that there isn't just one way to do this, to do a PhD, and actually she'll get advice from me, she'll get advice from her other supervisor, and then she navigates her way through to this thesis. And so, makes those decisions about it. But it makes for really, really beneficial and fruitful discussions and really insightful research.
So, obviously, can we talk a bit more about your PhD? What does it entail? What is the subject? And if you're happy to talk about it, you're not sick of it.
Sure, anytime. My research, okay, let me tell you, my motivation going into that research was the fact that, as I said, I have spent lots of years in the banking industry. And I got to a level where I managed a lot of portfolio, a lot of SMEs, micro, small, medium enterprises.
Wow.
Yeah, lots and lots and lots of them. And part of products that we availed to them was financial product loans. And over a couple of years, we realized that majority of them, when you give them these loans, some pay back, few of them pay back. Now, those loans are meant to help them grow. Some still remain where they are. Quite a number of them remain where they are. Nothing has changed. And then a humongous portion of them don't pay back. And they've gone under. And it became more important to me because the banking system in Africa or Nigeria is a bit different from the banking system in the UK. So before any loan is availed, at least those under my portfolio, I need to sign off. Even though I'm not a guarantor, but I'm kind of guaranteeing to the bank, I'm telling the bank that we can give this guy this money. So when those loans go back, it comes back to me. And that was the part. And they kept on increasing. And I said to myself, why is this happening? Why, even though we've tried to assist, we've tried to do whatever we can do, why is it that they are not able to pay back? If some few can pay back and some are even still surviving, why have these ones that are not paying back? What could be responsible for that? In my human thinking, or with the level of experience that I had, I narrowed it to a couple of things. One, probably the guys running these SMEs, in terms of education, they didn't have that much education. In terms of skills, they didn't have it. In terms of leadership and other things, they were lacking in those areas. And I remember going into a management meeting and I made those presentations and all that. And some people saw it, okay, yeah, it could be possible. Some people said no, there could be other things and all that, So it became an interesting topic for me. And my dad is a professor.
Wow.
Yeah, and in Africa they say, and I'm the first child. So there's this thing that on the first child, all the children, they want you to do better than your father, or at least meet up. So that's I've always wanted to do that PhD right from time. Yeah, but due to family and other things, I wasn't able. As I said, I finished my master's in 2007. I could have continued then, but I took a break. Yeah. So, but when this started coming up in the bank, and I said to myself, I think this is an area I should go look into deeply. And if I'm able to do a research on this, whatever my findings are, I could come back and I'm not going to work in the bank for them anymore. I could come back and consult for them.
Yeah, amazing.
Because of my position, we had a lot of interactions with the government. So you could go back to the government and say, hey, why don't we come up with a policy or something that says this. So I don't know what the findings are going to be, but whatever it is, it could be interesting, and I could go back and say, this is what I found and all that. So that was my motivation. So my research is centered around SMEs, micro, small, medium enterprises, and in relation to the owners, because they are the ones that run these businesses. Now, these are micro, small. So it's not the large corporation that you have all those structures and all that. These are enterprises with 5, 10, 15, 20. Some of them are even family businesses and all that. So the owners of the businesses are the ones that run it. They are the managers and all that. So they were the ones I focused on. And so that's what led to my motivation for the research. I'm a numbers person. I read my master's was in finance. My first degree was engineering.
Wow.
So I'm a pretty number person. But when I started my PhD, I wanted to go through the quantitative route, collect data, knock it off and all that, But I had a very long discussion with my supervisor, and she made me understand if you want to have an in-depth information about something that you're looking at, it's not about numbers. The numbers could tell you to some certain degrees, but an in-depth analysis will require you to go through the qualitative route. It took me, my proposal had to do with quantitative, but I had to change it at the end of the day. And so that's why I said it's good to have some good supervisors that understand you and are able
First
to.
challenge,
They won't
isn't
force
it?
it on you, but they'll tell you, spell it out to you that this, I think, at the end of the day, what you did. Yeah. So so I did that, and I interviewed a lot of SME owners back in my country. Got some very rich data from them, and at the end of the day, analyzed it. And what came out of it was pretty interesting. Yes, on one hand, in terms of skills, leadership, education, and all that, key. Human capital, we call it human capital. So, as a manager or as an owner of a business, that human capital aspect must be there. You must have that leadership capacity. You must have the skill to run your business. You must have the educational experience to run your business. Even if you're not educated, there is how much far you can go. Yeah, there is a place for education. Education is key. So those were given. However, in the thesis and the analysis, we found out that there were other factors I didn't see, we didn't consider, that could also be responsible whether you succeed or you fail. These were external factors outside the control of the owner or whoever is running the business. COVID happened. Nobody expected COVID, but COVID affected a lot of businesses. Yeah. So that has nothing to do with your level of education. Even if you had a PhD running your business, COVID is COVID. There's nothing you could do to COVID running your business. Yeah, a lot of external factors played a role. Quite interestingly, even though I knew it was there, but I never gave it a deep thought. And it hasn't been mentioned in the academic sphere, at least from the context where I'm doing my research. It was a fact that I think about 70% of the people I interviewed mentioned that even with the external factors, even with internal factors, even with everything that happened, and from Nigeria, even with the government policies, the corruption, the exchange rate, the inflation rates, everything and all that, the ones that succeeded based their success on their faith.
Wow, really?
I knew it was there somehow. As I said, I'm a person of faith, but I didn't think of it. And it's hardly talked about. There are some salient things that people don't talk about, but it's there. For whatever reason, it is. They don't talk about it, but it is certainly there. And that was going to constitute my post. It's one of the things I'm going to dig deep into when I start looking at my research, when I want to publish. Yeah. So that aspect of spirituality, religiosity, what role does it play in a business? I didn't mention it. Some of the people I interviewed mentioned it. In the Asian world, in the Muslim world, there's what they call Sharia banking. I don't know if you've heard about it. Okay, that's what they call Sharia banking. So it's a banking system that it has to do with their religious belief. And it's succeeding. In Nigeria, we have a lot of banks that are Sharia based. If you go to the Asian, Egypt, Morocco, they're all there and all that, and they're doing very well. They don't believe in collecting money from you and exploiting you, making money out of you, making it. If you go deposit your money in the bank, even if they make some interest on your money, they share it with you. So there are a lot of things that has to do with that. So I knew that was there, but I didn't see it as a factor or anything. But these guys were saying when things were difficult and challenging, they relied on their faith. And that's, I was also able to tie it to their leadership capacity, because as a leader, this is your business. if you don't do something, it's going to go under. So what do you need to do as a leader? What are you going to come up with? And so those guys said, based on this that I also did, I also was able to do this. And I believe this was what, at the end of the day, having heard that, I didn't want to go back to my literature to rejig my literature review, but I did in my discussion chapter and all that. I talked about religion in businesses. Is being spoken out there in America. There are a lot of scholarly papers that have come out, a lot of publications on religion and business and all that, but it's down there in America. Just a few in Europe, and hardly ever mentioned in Africa. Hardly ever mentioned in my country. So that was what made it somehow unique.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my interest now is, how do I bring up this more? And if I'm going to research further on this, how do I expand on my methodology? Because I only covered a portion. As a researcher, you have limitations. As a PhD student, I have limitations. I have financial limitations. I couldn't travel to my country to go wild and collect a lot of data and all that. So can I go back and collect a lot of data and see if what I've said here, if I found here, is actually true? Yeah. Can I also compare it to other African countries? Is it an African thing? Is it a context thing? If it is there in America, if it is there in some certain countries in Europe, are there some comparisons to draw from it? Definitely. And if at the end of the day, there are certain things that are not, so why don't you push it out there and then don't let it be salient anymore? So
that's the great thing about research, isn't it? Like, it doesn't just stop. Like, there's endless opportunities, and like you said, I like a comparison. I think, well, why is it there? Why is it not there? And things like that. But I was not expecting you to say faith at all. So I was like, wow, okay.
Exactly.
One of the really interesting things about PhD research is often people come into it with a lot of experience that shapes what they want to do, like your banking experience, as you say, and also this you identifying this feature of faith and how it resonated with you as well, and this relationship. Our research is very personal to us, and so we shape our research in ways unanticipated at the outset. But I think Obinna's experience of having all of that knowledge around banking and all of that knowledge that triggered this interest and then was able to sort of pursue it through a PhD is one of the wonderful things about doing a PhD. That you're not listening to lecturers talk about different research or whatever. You're actually doing something that interests you, and you have to love it because you're doing it for a long time. And there will be times when you hate it because of that roller coaster effect. But you start off with something that you're interested in, that might be from your own personal experiences, or it might be from sometimes that you've learned as an undergrad or a master's student, and you think, I'd like to learn more about that, and that takes you into it. But so frequently it's personal knowledge and experience that drives a particular interest, and I think Obinna described that beautifully. And also that relationship with the research, that you didn't bring faith into it, but actually it resonated with you when you found it, and as a key finding that you wanted to pursue is really important.
Yeah.
I mean, so it sounds like your experiences doing a PhD here at the university, doing a PhD generally, have been really positive.
Awesome.
So I guess for potential PhD candidates who might be listening, they might maybe consider applying for a PhD here. Is there anything you'd say to them to maybe make them sort of press that application button to study here?
Yeah, I mean, I would say to them, as I've said before, University of Suffolk is somewhere I think I would still recommend to anyone that wants to listen, that asks for my recommendation. And if there was any other, just as Prof said, that some of the undergrads still come back here to do their postgrad degrees and all that. If there was something else after PhD that I would still want to do it here at Suffolk. The environment, the everything that goes with it has, for me, it's been awesome. Having said that, the key thing is have an open mind.
Definitely.
Love it. You want to come and do a PhD here, make sure you are motivated enough. There's nothing in life, there's no way in life where you will see obstacles. Nothing comes easy in life. So be strongly motivated and have an open mind. And yeah, I'm sure you won't regret. I've had I think about 3 PhD students that started this year from January to date. And I've tried to encourage them. I've tried to tell them my experience, and really I've tried to advise them. I don't know, some of them are taking up, we were able to suggest to the LME business school, Tom, we have about 150 MBA students coming in from September, and 1-2 lecturers cannot do the tutorials, not the lecturer, but the tutorials aspect. So we had a meeting and we came to the conclusion that why don't we involve some of these PhD students to do the tutorials? So that's training for them as well, and that's what a small institution or a growing institution will offer you. Yeah. So it's an Suffolk presents you the opportunity. Yes. Yeah. So it's all left if you want to take the opportunity or not. I've told you my story. It's been awesome. It's been interesting. And coming here, have an open mind, be motivated. And I think at the end of the day, it will go well.
Definitely. Really, really. It's been so great hearing all about it. I mean, I'm not quite sure if I'm ready to do a PhD myself, but I think it's one day maybe. So you kind of touched on potentially expanding your research, but what are your plans and ambitions going forward now?
Okay. I also just concluded the PG Cap class course here.
As well as doing this.
Yes.
My goodness.
Yeah, so I just concluded that, and in our last session, they made us write what our goals are, what do we want to achieve in the next 5 years. And I categorically stated that, yes, I'm a part-time lecturer now. Hopefully, if I could get a full-time lecturer position, that would be fine. What the PG Cap offers me, haven't gone through it, is FHEA, is a fellow of higher education academia. That's what it offers me. I hope to be a senior, get the SHEA, hopefully in the next 18 months. And if I'm able to achieve that, and I'm still teaching, which I hope I'll still be teaching, get a senior lecturer position as well. So that's in between now and the next 5 years. And then out of my research, hope to publish at least 2 papers from my research. It will be interesting to know that one of the external examiners, after the examination, actually told me that you have some interesting aspects of your research that you could touch on and publish. And he's an editor in one of the journals, and he said, if you are interested, I might not be the one to review your paper, but you can send it to our journal, and we'll look into it and all that. So hopefully, journals and papers are not what you're writing 1 year, you think it will be published. So next 5 years as well, at least 2 out of my research, out of my thesis. I have other topics that are interesting to me. Technology is something that is very, very key to me. Data analysis, using data to forecast, to make. I teach. part of what I'm teaching now is human resources. Most of the modules that has to do with human resources, and one of the courses that I teach is data analysis. Most HR professionals don't want to hear data. They want to run away from data. But data can be your friend. Data can be the difference. Everything right now, every decision right now is based on data.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what can I do in relation with tech, data, and HR? What can come out of? So those are my interests. After my having gone through the PhD, I with support from Prof and my seniors. Hopefully, I'll get there.
Wow.
So just picking up on Obina that mentioned, we established the opportunity for PhD students who are interested in going into teaching in university, the opportunity to the first module of the PG CAP, which when they pass that then gives them an associated fellowship of the Higher Education Academy, which is something that all of the academics here are part of, and is an established, accredited teaching course, and so that then gives our students wanting to go down that route the opportunity to have on their CV something that another university might not provide for them, and within that module they have to do some teaching, they have to do some teaching planning, and they have to do some actual teaching, so they get to put that on their CV as well. So it's a module that we have available for our students to take each year within the institution, which is an added benefit, as long as they're not doing it whilst they're trying to write up, or that they finish the course before they end their studentship with us. The other feature that Obina was talking about was publishing them from research, and I think that's also something that our supervisors are very helpful with post viva, because all of our supervisors are research active, and so they are publishing and researching themselves as well. So going through the rigors of the peer review process of writing an article, they have knowledge and experience that they can offer that and do, whether it's within supervision or post viva, that they can offer that kind of support to help navigate the processes of getting published, because that's challenging to do and a very rigorous process. And so if you've got supervisors that are doing that all the time as part of their own career development and as part of their own research profiles, then they bring that knowledge and experience into the supervision relationship as well, which is very important, particularly because careers in HE require not just a PhD, that's a sort of threshold qualification, but publications and to be published, then you're bringing that referability, you're bringing that additional benefit to the institution, and if you've got some teaching experience in there as well, then you might be slightly ahead of the game of another candidate that is, or an applicant that's in there. And so that's part of what we try to do and provide that professional development for, and that with that eye to employability at the end of the PhD.
That's really interesting. In fact, really interesting discussion. We've certainly learned a lot, and I'm sure those listening will have done as well. So just before we move on to our final question, just wanted to give you guys a chance to say, was there anything else you wanted to say about the PhD program or the mock viva that we haven't had a chance to talk about yet?
There's probably lots.
Yeah.
I think maybe we'll save that for another podcast.
Yeah, sure.
But yes, if anybody listening is interested in doing a PhD, get in touch with us at the Doctoral College. Have a look online. We've got videos, including one of Obina up there talking about
watch it before.
Yes, talking about doing their PhD here at Suffolk, and so reach out to us, and we will, if you want to talk to an academic about your subject area, we will put you in touch with an academic academic, without any sort of expectation that anything more will follow. But talk to us, and we will talk back with you. We'll help you move to the next step, either with us or somewhere else, if that is the case. So yes, and for those existing students interested or contemplating a mock viva, just listen to Obinna's experience and have a conversation with your supervisors about whether you think it would be beneficial, and bite the bullet and have one. I would recommend it.
Right.
She said it all.
Sorry.
Fine.
So we've got our final question now, which is what we call answer one, ask one. So what's going to happen is you guys are going to answer a question from the previous guest.
All right.
We've had on the podcast, and
Okay.
we're going to pose one to.
Is this
the
like
next
Diary
guest.
of a CEO?
Yeah, well, I got inspiration from
Okay,
that.
all
Sound
right.
like the podcast.
Took inspiration from it.
Yeah.
Where the question we've got, and Obina, you sort of mentioned it before about your plans for the future. So maybe if we start with Sarah, the question we've got is, where do you see your department growing in the next 5 years or so?
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, we are new in supervision, or in PhD provision. So we have 114 students at the moment, and I would like to see that expand. I would like to see our provision expand considerably. We're in the process of going for RDAP, or putting in an application for research degree awarding powers, which would mean that currently we partner our PhD program with Brighton University, and so RDAP would allow us to not have a partner and to do those independently, which I'm very keen for us to see. I'd like to see further development of what a PhD is for our university to develop, so professional doctorates in certain areas, PhDs by publication rather than the traditional PhD route. We already have a distance provision, so we have students in Mauritius and United Emirates and in Australia. We have distance PhD students who do everything online, their training, their supervision, their annual progress reviews, etc. So I'd like to see that expanded to really to sort of not take a traditional PhD and turn it on its head, but actually make sure it fits a modern university and a modern experience of student. And so to sort of have a look at the different disciplines and how we can shape PhDs to fit those, perhaps more than they are right now. But really it's to carry on developing the provision here and to expand our student numbers, but also retain what Obinna has so beautifully articulated here, which is that sort of that personal experience, to make sure we never lose sight of we know our students' names, we know what our students are doing, and so my challenge really is to try and steer the expansion of the PhD provision, but retain that personal experience for students that I think can get lost in bigger institutions. And so it's how we manage that is going to be occupying me for the next 5 years, I think you said. So so watch this space.
Yeah. Obinna, do you want to maybe chat? I know you mentioned it before, but a bit more about maybe in 5 years' time what you'd like to be doing.
Well, if I have the same interview in 5 years' time, I'll be proud to tell you that 1, I'm a senior lecturer. 2, I've gotten my SFHEA. 3, I've had 2 publications from my research. So those are, in terms of remaining in the academic, that is what I want to do in the next 5 years. And then also, I mean, I as much as I've worked hard for it as well, I've also been grateful to have people, supervisors, doctoral college, prof, that have really helped me, and also I also want to help others as well. So to be honest, if there's anyone contemplating, especially any international student contemplating on coming to, they can reach out to me or reach out to any of us. I mean, we're there. If any of them have gotten the admission, we're here to help. As I said, there are 2-3 of them that just started this year, and I try as much as I can to, because it could be a daunting experience, but once, as I said, that motivation is there and you're open-minded and with the right guidance and all that. So I'd also love to do that anywhere I could help in terms of advice and all that. So I'm willing to do that as well.
That's brilliant. I think a great way to
I think
finish.
you're going to achieve all of
Yeah.
those things. You said about being competitive. I think ambition comes under that as well, clearly,
Yeah.
and passion for what you're doing shines through, really.
Exactly.
So yeah,
Exactly.
no doubt you'll achieve those things and more.
So thanks again for joining us, guys. So until next
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
That's all right. It's goodbye from Laura.
Goodbye.
It's goodbye from me. Goodbye. Thank you for listening to the Student Experience podcast. If you would like to be a future guest, email studentexperienceteam@uos.ac.uk or follow the links to our application form through our Brightspace page. You can also reach out to us through our Instagram page @UOS_student experience.